So normally with my mock draft videos, well, normal videos too, I suppose, is that I hit you in the intro with the kind of charm, wit, and just raw sex appeal that just keeps you here watching, and I appreciate that. But considering that we are going from 20 and 30, and there are so many movements in the draft order for the September mock draft, even before we rock the intro, let's go through all the changes to the draft order, shall we? So Richmond will get pick 9 and pick 17, and Freo will get Shea Bolton. Richmond will get pick 6. Gold Coast will get Daniel Rioli. Port Adelaide will get pick 11 plus something in the future, I am sure. Carlton will still end up with Dan Houston here. Even though North Melbourne are coming hard, I understand that. But for this mock draft, Dan Houston will still be a Blue. I imagine more in 2025 will be going the Bulldogs' way, but for this mock draft, pick 16 will be going to the Doggies. Geelong will get Bailey Smith. Again, there will be more things that will go to the Cats. It's just not affected in this mock draft, so don't come at me too hard. Collingwood are going to get pick 12 and pick 46 from Gold Coast. They are going to give up Johnny Noble and their 25 first round pick, which they will not need because Tommy McGuan is going to be a first round pick. And not only that, he is going to be a top 5 selection in next year's draft, it looks like. So Collingwood don't need their first round pick. They can just get picks in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s next year. Pay for him that way. So there you go. And Melbourne are going to get pick 25. Adelaide are going to get Alex Neil-Bullen. And I think that was actually the pick for Shane McAdam, but because it's different drafts, they can trade it back. So in terms of player trades between two clubs, that's it. And there is a three-way trade here. It's not going to be a three-way trade, but because pick 13 is going to be traded twice, I just thought it would be worthy of getting in there. So Richmond are going to get pick 13. West Coast are going to get Liam Baker and pick 29, and Hawthorn are going to get Tom Barrass. Now, I also suspect that the Hawks are going to get a second-round pick in 25 to them. I also think West Coast are going to get another first-round pick from the Hawks. But, again, neither of those are affected in this mock draft, so go with me. All right? In this scenario, in terms of the compo picks, Josh Battle is going to get end of first round, given that he's accepted an offer less from the Hawks than what he was offered at St Kilda. So I have that going at pick 21. If the AFL Secret Herbs and Spices wants to give them band 1 compensation, which would give them pick 8, I would have them taking who Freo get in their first selection. So keep that in mind, Saints fans, if you're upset about where this pick falls. And Jack Graham is going to be the other one, which I still strongly believe is going to be a mid-second round compensation, which is going to be pick 29. So if you're wondering why pick 29 is featured here twice, very simply, the pick 29 that is traded in the Liam Baker, Tom Barrass deal was already owned by Richmond. Therefore, that will become pick 30 because the pick 29 gets interjected there. So just keep that in mind that the Liam Baker pick to West Coast with the Graham compensation now becomes 30. I just didn't want to confuse anyone and put 30 there. It's easier to explain it that way. We're not done though, because some clubs that I think need to attack picks in this draft are going to do so. So allow me to explain those very quickly. North are going to get pick 19 here. Sydney are going to get pick 40 from North this year. And the second round pick from the Kangaroos. Pick 40 could be used in a Matty Owies trade, but for now, I think it's going to go to the Swans here. North have got other picks they can use for Owies. St Kilda are going to get back into the middle late region of the first round. They're going to get pick 14 and GWS's third round pick. They are going to hand over their first round pick to the Giants next year. St Kilda need to hit the draft hard this year. Now, for the purposes of this video, Finn Callaghan is not going to be a Saint. I don't think that's going to go through, and I also don't think they're going to get the band 1 compensation for Battle. So keep in mind that if the Saints do end up getting band 1 compensation, pick 7, pick 8, they probably don't do this deal. For the purposes of this mock draft, they are. And then I think Melbourne are also going to want another pick. So they're going to upgrade here. They're going to go from pick 38 to pick 20, hand over their second round pick next year as well. So the Suns are doing deals here for future assets because they are going to be paying for their 4 academy kids next year. Therefore, they only really need to pay for Leo Lombard, maybe get another pick in the door this year, and then go helter-skelter and get their 4 kids next year. Cool. Roll the intro. Let's do this as quickly as we can. Jagger Smith to Richmond, pick one for all of the reasons that I love Jagger. It's a really important decision, this one, because whilst Finn O'Sullivan could definitely be the best player in this draft, I definitely think Richmond now need to go for impact straight away, and there is a region where Finn is still there, by the way, at their Daniel Rioli selection. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but how much risk do you take in this iteration of the mock draft? I'm saying not as much, and I don't think Jagger at this point is a risky pick for them. North Melbourne at pick 2. I know they want to trade this back, and if their offer to Port Adelaide for Dan Houston doesn't come through, they're probably going to target, hopefully, St Kilda's pick 8 if they get the band 1 compensation for Josh Battle. I think they're going to target a swap there. North give their 2025 first, St Kilda give them pick 8, and maybe something else, considering St Kilda not only should target the midfield region of the draft with their first pick anyway, they'll be in the running with North's pick for Willem Dersma or Dyson Sharp, who look like they're going to be the top-end talent next year. That works for both clubs, but for this mock draft, that doesn't happen. So Trainer ends up at North, who I don't think North want to take Trainer at 2, but they want him massively. There's only so many draft people I trust, and someone else who I very much trust in this space can only keep telling me that Trainer is their guy. So until I can get North a pick somehow, he's going here. Hate me for it, I don't mind. Levi Ashcroft can go here at number 3, so grand finalist is going to get the 2 best players from the Victorian Under-18s grand final, effectively for nothing. So, equalisation's going well, and I don't mean that as a dig to Brisbane fans, like you guys got no handouts when you were shit, so please don't think that I'm having a jab at you guys. Specifically, it's jealousy, really. It is. I'm a Hawthorn fan. We got screwed over with Noah Anderson. We've had 2 guys ineligible for the NGA. Give us something. I don't really think Hawthorn fans are allowed to complain about things, are we? To be honest. But Levi's a star. Had 27 and kicked 2, I think, in the Under-18s grand final. Took the piss anyway, and he'll end up at the Lions. Harvey Langford ends up at West Coast, which Xavier Ellis is going to love if you listen to the Hardball Gets podcast. And hey, if you want to send this to them, go for your life. But he's got the strut, he's got the movement, he's got the ball skills, he's got the nous, he's got the footy IQ. He's got what you need, and considering it'll be him, Harley, and Elijah Hewitt that'll be taking over that midfield, hopefully, for the Eagles in a post-Tim Kelly and Elliott world, which isn't too far away. That's pretty exciting for that young group to grow together. And just by the by, as a midfield trio, Harley, Elijah, and Harvey is a sick first-name trio for a midfield, which is worth the pick alone. Adelaide, you get Sid Draper.
You're happy?
Are you happy? Yes. Excellent. Awesome. Sid Draper's draft story this year has been really weird, going from number 1 contender. He's been number 1 on a few power ranking lists that I've seen. Then he went through a phase of, is he just an accumulator and not dangerous at all? And every bit of footage that I see of him says, not really. So can we stop that? But with Sid Draper coming in, and I am sure Adelaide are going to want to throw buckets at everything they can to retain Dyson Sharp next year, one thing becomes absolutely clear. Rory Laird is not allowed to be a midfielder anymore. With Billy Dowling, Zach Taylor already there, Sid Draper coming through, maybe Dyson Sharp next year. You can't have Dawson, Crouch, Laird at stoppage anymore. You also need to find room for Rankin. Rochelle will need to roll through there from time to time. I'm still a believer in Lukey Pedler, although I think he really does need to become a high half forward alongside Alex Neil-Bullen, but that's a whole nother thing. Sid Draper ends up at the Crows. Melbourne really do have a decision to make here. I'm going with Josh Smiley for the big contested bull around the contest, although if Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca are both there at the end of the trade period, then I think this is Finn O'Sullivan convincingly. But I'm still not 100% sure. I still worry about the ability to win contested ball. I'm a believer in Trent Rivers as a midfielder. I'm probably a believer in Judd McVie as a midfielder as well, to be honest. But definitely I'm a believer in Trent Rivers at this point in time. So someone that can win it at the cold face is what they need. 193 centimetres. Look, Paddy Cripps is going to be the guy that everyone wants him to grow into, depending on who drafts him. I've seen on Twitter at times where you're thinking of a guy like Will Setterfield, who's a similar type. And of course, if you were to pick a resume, you'd want to have Cripps over Setterfield. It'll probably depend on the landing spot as well, but it makes a lot of sense, and I don't really think they can go wrong with Smiley or O'Sullivan. It's what they do with these guys. Development is going to be key in such an even draft. I don't know how many flops we're going to get straight out of the gate. This will really be a good year for development, and Smiley at the Ds makes a lot of sense to me. Richmond get Finn O'Sullivan, but keep in mind, they'll either get Sullivan, Draper, or Smiley in this spot, and if you want someone else in that spot, go for it. But one thing is for sure, you need to take 2 midfielders with your first 2 spots, and I don't think anything can be any more true at that point. Yes, you're losing Daniel Rioli, so you're going to need some half-back help. I understand that, but Tom Brown is a lethal kick of the footy. I like Sam Banks as a player, but considering that you were going to be moving into a new age of footy under Adam Uze, go get the blokes in the middle. When you're going to have all the picks that you've got, start from the middle, work your way out. And you just need to do that. So Draper, Smiley, or O'Sullivan is who you need to go with alongside Jagger. In this iteration, it's O'Sullivan, who in the back end of the year hasn't had the exposed form I would have loved to see, but I think there's been enough that he's going to be taken in the top echelon. And if I was doing a power rankings, who is the best player versus mock draft, Finn's not 7th, but mock drafts is not a power rankings video. Everyone does a power rankings video. Go and read them. This is a mock draft. Very different. Finn, Richmond, 7. St Kilda, 8. Murphy Reid, fingers crossed the knee injury is not that bad. It's one of those cases of, if it is bad, you become, I don't think scared is the word, but the question opens up of how far do you fall in the draft? I think of someone like Elijah Hollins who went through this. Now, on reflection, Elijah did play some really good footy for the Blues, and we'll see what he turns into, so maybe that was justified. Actually, I'm not even thinking of Bailey Humphrey is the guy I'm thinking of, not Elijah Hollins. Anywho, maybe Hollins did get injured as well, but Bailey Humphrey was the bloke that I'm thinking of. And you can think what you want about Bailey, but he did fall from the start of the year to where he ended up because of the ACL. So keep that in mind. But we don't know what's happening with Murphy at the time of recording, so fingers crossed he is okay. But at his best, he suits everything that St Kilda needs. So a really good pick here. And if the knee injury is serious and he slips a little bit, St Kilda fans, like I said in the intro, keep an eye on Freo's first pick, because that's who I would have you taking if it's not Murphy. So keep that in mind. I think Gold Coast matched the bid for Leo Lombard somewhere around here, and I kind of feel bad because it's like, well, we've got to throw him in somewhere, so why not here? Leo Lombard to the Suns. He's small, he's dynamite, he's a beautiful kick, he can find the scoreboard. He'll be in Gold Coast's best team, I suppose, in 2 years' time, alongside their other academy kids. Let's move on. Jobe Shanahan to the Bombers. Got the exposed form in the VFL. The offensive punch is just what they need. Like, you can fix other parts of your list, best 22, your hopes in regard to the Bombers later on in the draft. Your first pick needs to genuinely be, what can we be better at in 25? And an offensive threat for longer is going to help them. He, Nate Caddy, and Peter Wright is going to cause a 3-headed monster that teams are going to be afraid of. And given who is coming in the academy, once the ball hits the deck, that's going to help as well. And Nate Caddy is an above-average player below his knees. And Jobe is not too shabby either. So, make it happen. Back to Richmond, Harry Armstrong. And if Essendon want to go down the path and take Harry, they would absolutely take Jobe here. But 2 midfielders, tall forward tick for the Tigers. Kicked 5 not too long ago. Did Harry in the under-18 state grand final. Has some really good form throughout the year. Looks the best of the traditional key forwards. I still think Jobe Shanahan is not your stand in the goal square full forward type of player, which is why I say that Harry is the pick of the traditional key position. Players a little bit like Nate Caddy, to me, wasn't coming out of his draft year what I would deem a traditional tall forward, but when you think of guys like Cole Shadir, for example, from the Hawks, like, he's never going to be your stand in the goal square and wrestle a la Mitch Lewis. Neither is Nate Caddy, neither is Jobe. Harry can be. Looks AFL ready-ish from his body, especially compared to, say, like the Whitlock twins, for example, and maybe even a Jonty Fall, so that'll help Richmond's case, who, outside of Tom Lynch, is frighteningly bad in the key position post. So start it now. Freo takes Sam Layla here. Yes, Neil Erasmus is going to be a guy they're going to need. Shea Bolton is a guy they are going to need. They've already got their settled midfield with Brayshaw, with Sarong, with Young. Why are they taking this guy? Because he is too damn good to pass up. You will figure out where he goes at some point. So just take the best guy available in this spot and run with it. Also, Freo have been too damn defensive for too damn long. When they scored and got offensive punch throughout the year, they looked awesome. So lean into that and keep doing it. Sam has the ability to be an inside 50 player as he finds his feet in AFL footy. It works. And yes, this is the player, St Kilda fans, that if, things go differently in terms of compensation and all that, he is who you would take. So before you attack me about the Murphy Reid stuff, just know that. But in this iteration of the mock draft, Sam Layla to Freo is frightening, which is why I think it's such a good decision. Essendon match a bid for Isaac Keiko here. They'll just find a way to match it. They'll be fine. They'll find deals and all those sorts of things in the trade period. So they will find it for him. Electric, small forward. He will help them absolutely down there. Poor Jaden Davey and Alwyn Davey Jr. haven't probably come into themselves as AFL players. Jaden through injury, Alwyn through a little bit of injury in form, which is a real shame. But get Isaac in there, fully fit. I genuinely think he can play round one. And at this point in time, is my Smokey for the Rising Star next year. Genuinely. If he can be fully fit, he definitely fits the positional need for the Bombers. He is going to be so exciting to watch. And even if Joby's there as well, their starting forward line, if Stringer stays, might be Peter Wright, Job Shanahan, Nate Caddy, Jake Stringer, Isaac Keiko, and Kyle Langford. That is a dynamic forward line that is going to be a nightmare. Where is the pressure going to come from, Daz? I hear you cry. Well, you have a pre-season to train for that. You can't be perfect at everything. So get one part of your game right. And having so many guys in your forward 50 who are going to be threatening all the time is going to be a point of difference for the Bombers, especially if they're going to play so many games at Marvel. Therefore, it's going to be a quick deck. The ball's not going to be wet. It's nearly worth the price of admission alone. If Essendon need help with their PR team, hello. Port Adelaide here take Toby Travalia. If you want to take Dan Houston off them, well, just go get the best rebounding half-back defender in this draft. I don't actually think I need to say more than that. This guy's a gun and could be a star in the right system. And yes, they'll have Kane Farrell. They've got Logan Evans down there. They've got Lockie Jones down there, who I think can just be the lockdown small defender who can rebound. Think of someone like a Blade Hardwick in terms of stopping an opponent first. They play very different styles, don't get me wrong. Lockie's more of your run and gun, and Dimmer is more of your, kick it kind of player. So I'm not comparing the two, but in terms of a lockdown small defender, he can probably play that role. And Travalia can go through there, get the ball in his hand, and go beautifully. He and Josh Sin as ball users would be frighteningly good to watch, and we already know how good Kane Farrell is. So it just makes a lot of sense for mine. So with the John Noble trade, Collingwood will take Jonty Fall, because if I need to explain to you why Collingwood need a key forward, you just aren't watching Collingwood enough. But Brody Myercheck got injured a bit this year. Mason Cox is not a forward. He's got forward traits, but he's not a forward. Darcy Cameron is unable to be cloned, so he will probably have to play ruck, and that's about it. For crying out loud, unless Collingwood can land Oscar Allen somehow in this draft trade period, draft a tall forward. And Jonty's the best of who's left, although this is a really underrated key forward class with stacks of talent in it. But Collingwood, they get their choice, and for me, that's Jonty. Back to West Coast, I've got them taking Xavier Lindsay here, who is rising up draft boards, it seems, if you look at the power rankings websites, holy moly. But I've got him landing here. Good ball user, which West Coast need in spades, if we are being honest. And considering that they are going to need a flux of picks in, best talent available is where they need to go here. Bo Allen is definitely an option at this spot for the local talent, but I am very much in agreement of you won't want to leave a good football club. And West Coast don't really lose talent even when they're bad. They aren't losing players that bite them on the backside. Yes, Willie Rioli was really good in a couple of finals. Yes, I understand you may be able to find the one or two examples, but compared to someone like Adelaide of the past, Brisbane, when they were going through their down period, West Coast just aren't having that level of fallout, really. So I don't know if the homegrown factor is going to be that big of a deal here. I think I have Lindsay just ahead of Beau Allen here, which is why I've got West Coast taking Xavier. And speaking of first names, Xavier would be probably in my top 2 names for if I have a son one day. Fun fact. Don't know if anyone cares about that, but there you go. With St Kilda's trade with the GWS Giants, I have them taking Cooper Hines for their second midfielder in this draft. Again, best talent available, ball winner, uses it well, plenty of endurance, which we like. And Cooper is a guy who, the more film I watch, the more I like. His ability to find space when there isn't one, the ability that you can kind of see the way his brain works before he makes decisions. Now, of course, execution is going to come with time. Absolutely. If you expect an 18-year-old to be perfect, you're a moron, is probably my favourite saying around draft time. But considering that they're going to be getting Murphy Reed or Sam Layla, I think, at their first pick, you add this young man into the equation, and all of a sudden with guys like Marcus Windhager and Mateus Filippo alongside Jack Steele, as experienced guys like Brad Crouch and Zach Jones, shouldn't be anywhere near that midfield, and the Saints have got a really exciting nucleus moving forward. So the Bulldogs in the Geelong trade take Beau Allen here, and if West Coast did take Beau, then I still think Xavier Lindsay probably ends up at St Kilda, to be perfectly honest with you. But again, with this iteration, I should say, of the mock draft, Beau Allen ends up at the Bulldogs because he's just everything that Bevo wants. The ability to play multiple positions. He played on ball at the start of the Waffle Grand Final. He's played down back. He's played on the wing. If that's not Bevo's wet dream, I don't know what is. I really hope Beau's turned 18, because that could be disgusting, but not in the way. It's what Bevo wants in a player. There you go. Back to Richmond. We've gone from tall forward to now tall defender. Alexander Taru is the man that I am going for here. I think Carl Toomey called him the Viking. He did put him in the top 10 of his Phantom draft, which I found really interesting. But as a raw, exciting prospect, Richmond aren't exactly lacking in the key defender markets, but they aren't really fantastic down there either. Now, I love Josh Gibkiss a lot, and I hope he's okay. But I don't think having a spare key defender down here is going to be the worst thing for them at all. 4th of their draft picks off the board would be really exciting for them. So 2 midfielders, a key forward and a key back is a tick across the ball for mine. There is a couple of areas they could address later in the draft, of which there is still a flurry of players left, so keep that in mind. Taru's a really good fit. He's really exciting athlete as well, so I think it works for the yellow and black. Got North taking Joe Berry here at pick 20, so with their trade with the Swans, they need a small forward. So, as much as I didn't really like the way Daniel Hoyne at SEN said that North are going to regret taking Dersma over Watson for the next 10 to 12 years after 1 year of footy, it is still obvious that they need a small forward, so go and get him here. Outside of Keiko, he is the best one in the draft. I know Oliver Hannaford is getting a lot of love at the moment, but I think Joe Berry is starting to slip under the radar a little bit here. As just, yeah, he's a guy. He's in the 15 to 20 mark. Yeah, is what it is. Nah. This guy is talented, knows how to hit the scoreboard, and alongside Curtis, Zerha, Larkey up forward, Darling, who is going to be there next year, and I actually don't think I've given my thoughts on that. I'll do that in a YouTube short, I reckon. Fit for me, elite. North don't need a midfielder, so they don't need to take one here. Sydney do retain one of their picks, so let's do it here. Taj Houghton is the man I'm going for here, because it would be the most Sydney thing that Sydney have ever done. Let's be honest. The guy who's coming off an ACL, who probably would have been a top 10 pick this year, that slid because of it, a la the Bailey Humphrey discussion from earlier, just slides into Sydney's lap. He's had 28 and kicked multiple goals in a game this year or something ridiculous like that. The kid's so good. It's a Sydney fit, and they'll just bury him away for maybe even an entire season. I mean, he could be walking into the premiership team come next year. So why do they need to play him early? Get him fit, get him rehabilitated, get him into the Bloods culture, get him out there, watch him dominate. I'm angry about this, which is why it's a good call. So with the Gold Coast trade with Melbourne, I've got them taking Tom Gross in this spot, a centre forward player. I'm not saying he's going to replace Alex Neil-Bullen straight away, but he'll be able to start his career on a half forward flank as he looks to rotate through that midfield rotation And he's got the ability to do that. He is not just a midfielder that you're going to plonk on a half-forward flank and hope he comes good. He is going to be an offensive threat at the start of his career. So, works beautifully for Melbourne in this spot. And can you believe that we're not out of the first round yet? Holy shit. Still not there yet. Brisbane match a bid for Sam Marshall, who was best on ground in the under-18s grand final not too long ago. Well, at the time of recording, it was yesterday. So there you go. 28, kick 2. I think it was Levi who had 27 and kick 3. And like we say, took the piss, as did Sam Marshall, who I think it was like 2 months ago. I was like, he's the most underrated player in the draft. So that's already coming true. So, sucked in haters, I suppose. But he's a gun. Again, the 2 best players on the ground in the under-18 grand final are heading to one of the 2 best teams in the competition. So, hats off to Brisbane, to be honest. When the guys in your academy are really good footballers, under the AFL rules, you deserve them. Enjoy them. And finally, with pick 24, the last of the first round, because this is the Josh Battle compensation, Hamish Davis is the guy I've got St Kilda taking. Tossing up between a few names here, to be perfectly honest. Could go to a halfback flanker as they adopt a more offensive style, I hope, especially with all their games at Marvel. But 190 centimetres, Davis is a guy who, again, I am buying a lot of stock of coming into the back end of the year. But 190 centimetres, your hybrid forward that will be able to come in and make a difference, can be on the lead up, pretty clean below his knees, knows where the goals are, and can kind of be a bridge between your Max King type and your Jack Higgins and Dan Butler types. Tim Membry is in his 30s and can be alongside Cooper Sharman as kind of a 1-2 punch around the big banana. That is Max King. Richmond take Jack Whitlock here, another key position player, the second forward that Richmond have taken in this draft. But as far as I'm concerned, Richmond should only draft in the spine with their first lot of picks. So yes, Tom Lynch is still there. Yes, Jacob Kaczynski and Samson Ryan are still there. I don't care. Draft your spine. So, at this point in time, you've got Harry Armstrong at full forward, Jack Whitlock at centre half forward, you've got your 2 midfielders in Jagger and Finn, and you've got Alex Taru at centre half back. In terms of your spine, that's the way they should do it. Good, bad, or otherwise, that's what they should do, in my opinion. So, therefore, here we are. I really like Jack. He and Matt have been really good this year. Jack looks like a natural forward, which helps. He'll probably need to sleep in the gym a little bit as he goes through. And that's not body shaming him in the slightest. I mean, I could give him some of my kilos if he wants them. Unfortunately, they're not going to be muscular ones in the slightest. So, but lightly framed, you don't have to be a big-bodied gorilla in order to thrive in the competition, but considering how good key defenders are in the game, you are going to need an absolute weapon or two, and the ability to stand up in contested marking situations is going to be super helpful. Look at someone like Marby or Chol, for example, on the lead, looks so dangerous, led Hawthorn's goal kicking, all of that is good and all. Couldn't really win a contest in the air in the finals, so that's going to be a bit of a problem. But I still think Jack to Richmond makes sense. I also think with North's next pick there, they could also go with a Whitlock brother. Go with Matt, because no one knows which end of the ground he will want to play at. Is he and Charlie Comben the 1-2 punch down back that North need? Even though Griffin Logue is already there, Aiden Core kind of is what he is at this point in time, and I'm probably missing someone else from that key defensive back mix at this point in time. Or could Matt be a forward, be he and Nick Larkey in a post-Jack Darling era? Who knows? That's what's exciting about this. And North taking a small forward with Berry plus a tall is golden. And if they can get another pick in that top 10, and they do take a midfielder at 2 and trainer at, say, 8, if they do that deal with St Kilda, if you're telling me that they can walk out of a draft with potentially a Finn O'Sullivan, Luke Trainer, Joe Berry, and Matt Whitlock, they've just about won the draft for me. That includes Richmond. Holy moly. Third key position player in a row. West Coast, I've got taking Harry O'Farrell here. Yes, in a post-Jeremy McGovern world, not that he's retired yet. But with McGovern closer to the end than the beginning, yes, he was an All-Australian, I know, but from an age profile, no Barras there either. Luke Edwards and Rhett Bazzo are going to be under the pump pretty quickly, so I think getting 12 months into an 18-year-old as quickly as possible is going to be the most beneficial thing for West Coast 2. He is a traditional back shoulder defender. I don't see him being a massive possession getter, but neither is a guy like Jacob Wiedering, and that would be a hell of a get at this point in the draft. I'm not saying Harry is going to be the next Jacob Wiedering, but what I can say is that as a guy that stands back shoulder, you don't need him to get 20 touches a game, right? You look at a guy like Sam Frost, for example, for the Hawks, who, yes, has got his flaws, but in terms of playing back shoulder, did a really good job this year, right? In terms of someone like the Crows, for example, Nick Murray can play back shoulder, doesn't need to get 25 disposals in a game, right? Harris Andrews doesn't either. These are pretty good guys to model yourselves after. So, Harry O'Farrell to the Eagles for me. Back to the Saints, Harrison Oliver is the man I've got them taking. He's one of the better ball users in this draft, and my lord, do the Saints need good ball users. So, therefore, match heaven made. Not a massive ball getter in his under 18, so he will need to improve on that. But if you can be a high impact per possession player early on in your AFL career, whenever it would be that he would start, that's something. Because if the weakness in your game is you're not accumulating enough ball, then you need to at least be doing things with it. He does that. He makes those things happen. So I'm not as worried as maybe potentially some others may be around Harrison. I just think his footy IQ is going to hold him in good stead, I hope, and a club like St Kilda, I think, would be in a really good spot to pick him up here. Back to Melbourne and Adelaide fans, I made you really happy with the Sid Draper pick, but I've got Melbourne taking Alex Dodson here, so I'm really sorry to do this to you, but they have no one. And for the next person that says Tom Fullerton, if Melbourne don't believe in him, I can't really say they've got good ruck stocks at this point in time. And Jacob Van Rooyen and Harrison Petty are not going to win you finals as your ruckman. What about Sean Grigg, Daz? Toby Nankervis was still there, just quietly. So here we go. The Max Gawn heir apparent. Make it happen, because it's either that or you're going to trade for a ruckman. And unless you're going to go after a Ned Reeves or a Nick Bryan, who I think Essendon would be stupid to let go of, but that's just me, there's not really that many options out there. And I think having Alex Dodson there with Gawn would be amazing. So that's what happens. Sorry, Crows fans. And last but not least, we're here, Freo, Jesse Datoli, and you could just argue that a lot of this is the same as the Sam Layla talk, but for me, Freo cannot touch the defensive part of the ground in this draft at all. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually traded this pick for something in the future, like a 2025 second-round pick from someone. I think actually a team like Geelong to take Lockie Jacques at this point would be incredible for them to do, or maybe a club could go after a Xavier Visick here at this spot. Could a bid come in for Ben Camporeale? Absolutely at this spot. But in terms of the best player I think is left, which is what I think Freo need to do, I think Datoli here is a really good pick. Can impact the scoreboard, and considering I'm not really convinced by Frederick, Sam Switkowski, or Tom Emmett as forward 50 players, you never know. You might need those impact players moving forward, even with Bolton coming in and Erasmus on the sideline. So, top 30. There it is, guys. Roast away. But I love this. I'm not saying it's perfect. No mock draft ever is. But there's 30 opinions. You're going to agree with some. You're going to disagree with some. That's the joy. That's the fun of the game. So that's it, guys. Comment below. Let me know what you think. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. I will be announcing the extension of the Daz Talks Empire after the grand final. So that's going to be really exciting. But I am going to do a grand final preview and I'll have a guest lined up. So fingers crossed that comes to fruition. And if not, hey, I'll do it solo. Happy to do that as well. So, but fingers crossed, because this guest is someone I've wanted to talk to for a long time. So keep everything crossed if you can. Enjoy your work week. I hope it's been off to a fantastic start, because you're an absolute legend. Make sure that you love those around you, but make sure you love yourself. And if it's your birthday today, happy birthday. You absolute star. See you guys.